Hello everyone, this is Jeff Byers and I hope you're having a great day. This is module 7 and we are going to be finishing our crate and diorama up. So with rendering, or excuse me, texturing, adding details to the crate to basically to make it yours. I'm going to make sure you download the normal maps that I have in module 7. Look for those and download those, and then I'll show you how to place those into Substance Painter. So I'm going to be using Substance Painter 9. So if you haven't upgraded that, go ahead and do that now before we continue. Anyway, so for this to work, we want two separate objects. We're going to texture and detail the crate itself without the accessories, the locks and the handles and all that stuff. So you want to keep those separate. So you might want to combine those into pieces themselves. So I'll show you what I did. Go ahead and you have the crate by itself. I'm just going to show you this process on the large crate. You can take the process that I've showed you, rewatch the videos again for the smaller crate. So we'll go ahead and do the larger crate, and then you're going to have to do the smaller crate on your own. Just rewatch the videos and do the same process. Okay, so go to UV and go to UV editor, and you can see that I've got my UV setup for UDIM tiles. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 UDIM tiles. That means I can add separate materials to each one of these objects if I want to create a unique texturing. I do this just to kind of, it's simple. I don't separate everything. I separate certain things like the sides, the top separate, the corner pieces separate, and you can see how I did this. If I close this a little bit, I'll give you an idea how I went about doing this. So I went ahead and I'm going to go to UV, and you can watch my UV tutorial, but I'm going to go to UV, I'm going to go to face, just kind of select the faces. So you can see that if I select these corner pieces in the UV editor, you can see that selects the faces on the object. And if I highlight this piece, you can see that it's actually doing the inside. If I hit the 4 key, you can see in wireframe all the pieces that I've got. So I'm going to go ahead and you can see those are the sides, each side. Those are the center pieces, and that was really important for me to have those separated out. And then I've got these guys right here in between on the top, and then the sides and the front. So you can see this whole thing. If I select everything, we'll select the entire box. And you got to make sure you don't have anything that hasn't been UV mapped. That could be a problem. Okay. So when that's done, you got them all separated. A couple things you need to keep in mind is that you cannot have the UVs go outside of the shell, nor can you have the UVs on top of each other. You cannot go out of the black UV shell itself. So I always make sure that I push the UV shells away. I don't get too close to the black edge. Okay, and I never cross over top of each shell. Okay, so just to give you an example, you don't want to have that going on. Okay, and don't even have them close together at all. Keep a nice separate space between each one of these. Okay, feel like you're getting too close to an edge, then just move that shell over a little bit. Okay, if you don't do that, you're going to have all kinds of problems getting it into Substance Painter, your object. It won't even load properly. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, so now that you have that done, the box itself will be by itself, and then you're going to go ahead and UV map the little pieces. What I did for those is I just did automatic mapping, and then again I can show you if I go to face mode, I can select all the pieces that will be that color. Okay, all the pieces that will be this material. Okay, if I hit the 4 key, it's easier to see. And then I got these pieces for this particular material. Okay, so you can see that I've strategically added materials to these separate pieces. And what I did was I did them by themselves first, and then combined them all, and then went in and separated them into each UDIM tile. So I've got 3 UDIM tiles for this. Okay. All right. So we've got 2 separate objects that we're going to bring into Substance Painter. So the first thing we're going to do is, once everything is done, you're going to want to go ahead and close this. Now, I'll have a video showing you how to save your snapshot and all that stuff, so make sure you watch that. If not, let me do a really quick overview. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 UDIM tile shells. Okay, this has to be in object mode. Okay, so object mode is this guy up here. Click on that, right click over and go to select, and you're in object mode now. If I click on the camera, you can see that now I've got to turn this to PNG, and then I got to tell it where to go. But first of all, this texture map is going to be 4096. And how many tiles do I have? Well, I said I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got to type in 7 here. Okay. And then 1 there. And unless you're using another row. If you're using another row, you get into this row here, you'll have to put 2 there. So I'm going to click on browse. Where do I want to put this? Do I want it in the images folder? No, I want it in the source images folder. So I'm going to click on this guy, source images, right here. And I'm going to type in J Byers underscore create underscore TX and underscore new. So I know what this is new, because I've done this before several times, so I don't want to get messed up. So do all caps, so I know I'll have, you can see I've got base colors in here already, that I've already done this several times. Okay, so you don't want it, I don't want to overwrite that. So JByers create texture new, so I'm going to click on save. There we go. And so make sure you're saving it where you can get a hold of it. You know where you're saving it. I get a lot of students that just save and they don't know where it's putting it, and then they don't know where it is when they get everything done. So make sure you write things down so you know where it is on your computer, right? And then go ahead and click apply and close. Now it takes a while to generate all the maps, okay? So that's the process. You have to go through that process to get the textures back on here when you come back and add the textures that you created in Substance Painter in Maya. So you do the same process with this one. I'm not going to do it, okay? We're just going to concentrate on the crate, but the same process can be done here as well with the snapshot. So do the same thing, except I've only got 3 tiles, so you would do 3 and 1, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and click on that and go to File, Export Selection. Here we go. We want to be an OBJ, and we want to export selection. And we want to call it something that we'll put at the highest in the stack, so 1A. I'll put another A in there. Create. Let's put low poly in front of that. Low poly underscore crate. And let's go ahead and export selection. Okay. And then we'll go into Substance Painter in just a little bit. Okay, here we are at Substance Painter. So we're going to go to File. Before we do that, I'm going to show you, go to Help and find out what version you have. So I'm going to go to About Substance Painter at the bottom, though, almost the last one, second to the last. Click on that, and you can see I've got version 9.0.0 build 2585. So if you see something different in here that doesn't look right, you may want to update to version 9. That's what this video is on. Okay. Go to File and then New. Okay, and then you know how to do this. We're going to do ASM PBR metallic roughness starter assets. Save this to a 4096. Go ahead and click on Select. Documents, Maya, projects, I create. There we go. Let's try that one. Scenes, and so I'm going to click on Open. Okay, and then we want to make sure that we have use UV tile workflow and convert UV tiles into individual texture sets. Legacy. We'll click on OK. And there it is. And so if I hold down the Alt key and rotate around it, which is cool, and holding the Shift key gives me some hotkeys that I can look at, re-import mesh, surface tools. So I got these keys, hotkeys to go by, and I'm holding down the Shift key. Just hold it down and it will pop up. You can see over here we've got our 2D version of our maps. That looks very familiar to me because that's what I added on there. I'm going to move this down a little bit so we can see all my, as you can see all my UDIM tiles here. If I click on a UDIM tile, you can see that it's got its designated layer stack set up right below it. If I click on 1002, you can see that pops up, and so on and so forth. So it looks like everything is working. Okay. All right. So another thing we can do is you can turn things off to find out how that affects the object. You can see that little eyeball. If you turn that off, you'll see that that affects that particular area. So, you know, you can just kind of test out and see where things are and just see where everything is at. And you do not want to rename this stuff. Please don't do that. That will mess everything up. Do not rename these. Okay? I made a mistake doing that a long time ago and it really messed things up. You can rename your layers down here, but don't rename these. Okay, that'll really mess you up. Okay. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to bake our textures. So let's go into Mode and Bake Mesh Maps. Okay. Here we go. I'm not too worried about this cage or what it looks like, so don't let that bother you. We're going to want to bake all of these, so you just keep them all selected, right? And we want to have normal, world space, normal. We don't need an ID map. Ambient occlusion, curvature, position, and thickness. We need all those to be able to use smart materials. Those are really cool and fun to use. Okay? All right. So we can go ahead and bake these maps together. Okay? So we'll go ahead and we're not going to use the high poly because it's not really necessary for this particular assignment, because we're going to go ahead and add detail with normal maps, and we'll talk about that in the next video. But we're just going to go ahead and bake these maps and get the process started, so at least you have that all finished and completed. So output size, we want 4096. These are going to make very large files. If you find yourself running out of space or having some issues with so many files, because I've got 7 different UDIM tiles, and at 4096 per UDIM tile, that's 26 megabytes per file, and we're going to be baking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can see 7 times 7 times basically 28 megabytes. So that's really large. It's going to be a lot of files. It's going to take up a lot of hard drive space. If you are having problems with that, you can set that to 2048 if you want. High poly parameters, use low poly mesh as high poly mesh. We can click on that. So it's going to bake the maps on top of each other, or it's going to add the low poly to the low poly as the high poly. We're just tricking it to think it's a high poly. We don't need a cage, but frontal distance we're going to set to 0.5. Okay. And 0.5 on that one. Okay. Everything else is fine. So you can go in here and click on Bake Selected Textures. Okay. All right. Go ahead and do that, and just watch it do its magic. And I'm going to go ahead and pause this. This can take a while, depending on how fast your computer is. Okay, it's all done. So I'm going to go return to painting mode. Okay, so now we can go in here and start adding textures to it. You can use basic materials here, or textures or materials that you find yourself. If you find any textures, you can just go in here and actually add, let's see, yeah, import resources. So we've got a plus sign at the very bottom. They keep changing these little icons. I just actually updated to 9. So anyway, you've got this plus sign, and you can import your resources. Okay, so you guys can go to Substance Source, Substance Share. Substance Share has stuff for free, I believe. You can also find, if you're lucky, find Smart Materials or materials for free. I'm going to be giving you guys some materials for free too as well. So look for those in Module 7. So I'll be giving you normal maps, and I'm going to be giving you some materials you guys can load in just for fun if you want to use those for your project. Okay. So this is about as far as I'm going to go. Again, I think you know how to add. These are just basic materials. Then you can go to Smart Materials. You can click on that. And there are some really cool Smart Materials in here you guys can use. So I'm going to see if I can find those bands. I'm going to click on the band layer here. And I'm just going to go ahead. Let me make sure that is selected. I'm going to get a little closer to this object. Okay, move it down a little bit. And I've got this material that I really like using and messing with. It's between the machinery and painted steel. We got steel paint here. We also got this paint color here with dirt and grime in the center. I kind of like that kind of stuff, and it gives me some edges, wear and tear. This one's a pretty good one too, so you guys can get the idea. But some good ones here. So I'm going to drag and drop that onto that guy right there. And there we go. So you're just basically dragging and dropping your materials. You can kind of experiment. You can change the color. You can click on the folder here and just click on the color. Find out where the color map is. And just go from there. Let me see. I don't think it's in here. And there it is. There's the color. I believe that's the color. There it is. I can change it to any color that I want and go from there if I want to. So you just have to have fun, experiment, and mess around. Again, you know, this is your project. This is, you know, you add the textures you want to add, and just try to make it as realistic as you possibly can. You know, and again, this is your time to kind of shine with the materials and have fun and experiment and explore and get it just the way you want it. Okay. So anyway, have fun with that part, and just experiment. When you get done, just close that out with the color. Right, continue working and adding textures and It's non-destructive, so once you get something done, you don't like it, you can go back up here to say, I don't like this one, so I click on it. I can just click on the trash can here, and that'll delete that particular layer. Okay? All right, I'll see you in the next video, and have fun with the texturing.